to understand, or help me to understand, that you said, I mean, you touched a key point where, it takes a leadership for a country to say, okay, I no more need this humanitarian organization in my territory. Okay, so what is the difference, for those who are not having the exit plan and who do not have the courage to kick or to say, okay, leave, I am done? Or is it because still they are into a problem or into a crisis?
It has become, sadly, like I said, it has started growing as a machine. It's literally almost grown out of control. That's why I'm saying this is the time to control. Right now, most African leaders whose country go on aid, they are literally held to ransom by threats of sanctions and all if they don't allow it in. You see, that is the trick now. Now, it has become so powerful, it is used. The language international humanitarian access is used to undermine sovereignty. In fact, I would go as far as saying some of the insecurity that is spreading widely across Africa is because most African leaders, they can't even enforce security in their own area. I'll give you an example. When, look at Donald Trump, when after Donald Trump lost and some Americans, marched into the Capitol. Capitol. I mean, they were treated as criminals. It was clear. Nobody said, okay, Biden, come and negotiate with this group, or let's look at humanitarian corridors. They were caught and treated as criminals. That was who they were. They were not non-state actors. They were not insurgents. They didn't give them any nice name to legitimize what they did. But if somebody can come to in Africa and bomb a military base, and they are going to ask you, negotiate. Come, let's negotiate. Where's the humanitarian corridor? Using that kind of international language legitimizes criminality these days in some of these countries that are being forced. So some countries are not even aware that they are going out to beg, and this is why. When the United Nations the UN come into a country, they come in, the country, the national authorities have to agree and accept the resident coordinator. But those who come in with the humanitarian side don't come in through that negotiation. They come in. I mean, they enter and it spreads. It's almost, sometimes I use a statement like, it's almost like a parasite that just like a weed. And I'm saying this if it's not right. If it's not presented right, if it's not implemented right. So I'm saying this, yes, when we say this, they say it's African leaders' fault. A lot of them are held literally being bamboozled. There are some I know who've tried and they can't. They are there embarrassed. In fact, if you go through the media, the government of many countries have come forward, the prime ministers and presidents, to say, no, you international actors, you are exaggerating the situation. But right now, as I tell you, there are sanctions most African countries are threatened with sanctions when they call for a change. In Nigeria, for instance, where we've had the IDP camp, there's a governor from Borno State, is just my hero right now. He is putting his foot down and said, this is not what we asked for. We want people to live in dignity. The camps are not solving the situation. The international humanitarian presence come with a lot of other stuff, other elements into a community. And this man has seen it and he's saying no. But he's going to be threatened. He might be called. He's putting the lives of his people at risk by not taking this support. Different messages will come. So our leaders are not as bad as people think. We were unaware as this was growing. I am able to speak this way about this because I've worked in it. Because I know it takes working in it closely to see the dynamic. I mean, to see what even the notion of neutrality, humanitarian principles of neutrality, which says, it cannot be aligned with the government. Who forms the international humanitarian response? Who pays for it? Like late Thomas Sankara said, he said, there are many ways imperialism and neocolonialism come into a country, and he mentioned some of them. It's aid, food aid. There are many ways. and so you have a presence in. So our leaders, it's getting almost too late for them to do anything. That's what I'm speaking of. I think Rwanda was able to do it before Kenya. I worked in Kenya and we did a lot of work. I mean, Kenya is a tourist destination. They need to be very careful with going out there to appeal. They need tourism, you know. I mean, when I do my work, I'll give you another example. Do you know there are leaders who have been almost penalized, you know, in a way for not agreeing to go for the worst case scenario in a crisis?
Wow.
There's all the debate between cholera and watery diarrhea. If you say you have cholera, you get more money immediately. International funding comes, but your export of livestock goes down. People forget that one thing you give, you lose. You lose. So the leaders need to work hard. I think African leaders are very aware, but they are working in a dynamic right now where they are demonized very easily. And a lot of these countries that are going out to beg, one of the ways they push them out, most of the government, the leaders in those countries, after a while, they start getting a bad name. They start giving them a bad name. You know, because there are some workers, international actors, who believe being negative on the government means you're neutral. You're supposed to go into the country and not be positive about the government because it's perceived that you're not neutral. But you're very positive about your own country in Europe and begging them for funding. You do your paperwork, make sure you give account for the funding. So our leaders know, but they have to, it takes a battle to get this element out and move to the much needed work of development, because people get salaries in it. There are huge titles. There was a team I worked with and they were saying humanitarian celebrities. I said, please, you don't say that in my continent. You don't call somebody from Europe a humanitarian celebrity is coming. I mean, some of these high level, they are treated like celebrities. And I'm saying we should not be proud of this. There are some international NGOs that want to celebrate in certain countries. We're celebrating 60 years being here. I said you shouldn't celebrate that. You should be crying. You know, that includes the UN too, because the UN is what we make of it. So that's why I speak. I said the UN is our own. It's not for some others against Africa. Africa is part of owning the UN. So we have to actively invest a lot of time to make it work for Africa. Right now, the modus operandi, the interpretation of what is required is too tilted against us. So you have a situation where, as Africans, all we do is to be passive recipients of international humanitarian presence. How active are we in defining who is the face of that? What makes somebody part of who helps? You know, who is the giver, who is the receiver? All these are dynamics we Africans need to deconstruct and review. And as a UN person, and I say this happily, the UN is what we make of it. Sadly, Africans treat the UN as an institution of affluence when it comes to when they sit in Africa. And of course, we drive around in very big cars. So it's very easy to think. So sometimes I meet some journalists when I go to some certain countries I'm heading. I'm saying, challenge us. Ask me what is my impact. Challenge me. Don't ask me where there are job opportunities and what is happening here. Yeah, there are there are many ways we can get rich. Donald Trump told us all that his friends come to Africa to be rich. You know, so we know there's a way to make money in Africa. We have the resources, but most of us are so busy getting excited, doing contract proposals to work in certain organization where your only qualification is you're able to be negative about your country and be negative about your government. Then you are qualified. You understand? You're qualified to work with us. Continue to give us negative information. So we'll continue to raise funds. We write proposals. That is what is happening with international humanitarian presence across Africa. And that should change. The UN wants to be effective. And we cannot have international humanitarian presence for 20 years plus. We must sit down with countries that have had it for 20 years plus and discuss exit strategy. What will need to be in place for us to get out. You know, we cannot use international humanitarian action and presence to distract from the looting, the theft of Congo's resources. So every year we look at Congo begging for international humanitarian aid, and billions and trillions are being stolen. They call it, illicit financial flow. Tons of them are piling away from Africa, but we just throw a report on it. Why don't we have an annual event calling attention to where the money went to? It's very easy to call attention. Let's raise funds. Let's have annual event of amount of money that was stolen from Africa this year. Let's give that visibility. The charity branding of Africa has gone on for too long. It has to stop. It's a lie. We have children whose lives are going to grow here. Not all of us can run to Europe, and even those who've gone there, their lives are not, they don't have a life. There are many Africans trapped in Libya. And Libya is one of the countries that is asking for international humanitarian funding. What is it asking it for? It's to help keep Africans away from Europe. They're all refugees refugees in Libya, suffering. And we don't want to talk about the number of Africans who die en route in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
All this is misinformation about what opportunities we have in different parts of the world. And the charity branding of Africa has become an economy. It's a perverse economy driven by perverse incentives. And we should work with our leaders to become aware. Let us all be aware of where they are, what they are doing, watch them, hold them accountable, and ensure there's an exit strategy. Thank you, Mahlet.